The Republicans have an identity crisis in politics, and it's authoritarianism and not individualism, and that's central to the GOP. Now, repetition is one of the most essential principles in marketing. It is how a brand creates a relationship with consumers. So if the marketing campaign is successful, the consumer will link the brand with certain emotions, images, and ideas. Now, in the most effective marketing campaign, the consumer embraces a given brand as exemplifying those qualities to the exclusion of the competing brands. Now, at Forbes, Robin Lewis uses the example of Apple to demonstrate how the model functions. It's simply stated, a brand or store has a neurological connection with its customers if those customers approach the store visit as they would a visit to the home of a good friend. Now, um, now the trip requires almost no perceivable effort because they know it is going to be fun and an enjoyable experience. Now the consumer mind connecting process created by Steve Jobs for Apple is instructional for all consumer facing businesses because of its holistic approach. Once connected, Apple and its cult of addicts are impervious to competitors. Now Steve Jobs was almost obsessed with building this deep connection with consumers. His ability to translate science, technology, and innovation into an artistically designed, consumer-friendly product is now legendary. The unique Apple Store serves as the final link in this connection. Now, Republicans are masters of marketing using endless repetition. They have successfully captured their public and created for them an entire alternate reality, a closed episteme consisting of not just the party but a right-wing hate media echo chamber. Republicans can have all their questions answered by this alternate reality that they choose to live in. Now, the Republicans have used their marketing machine to brand themselves as the party of freedom and liberty and individual rights. Now, this is objectively not true. Today's Republican Party and conservative movement are fascists and authoritarians, who, in total, they hate real democracy and they hate real freedom. Their ultimate goal is to take away the civil and human rights and freedoms of those people they deem to be the enemy and therefore not real Americans. Now, their Orwellian newspeak version of freedom, liberty, and individual rights means that people are free as long as they do what the Republicans want them to do. Now, for example, Florida Republican Governor Ron DeSantis is engaging in a fascist project consisting of the thought crime laws by banning books and authors who are deemed dangerous and using his own personal Gestapo to intimidate and harass his political enemies. Now, DeSantis and his agents are also quite literally declaring the personhood of queer, gay, lesbian, transgendered, and non-binary people to be illegal. Basically, he doesn't consider them real people. Now, part of this attack on their humanity and literal existence involves encouraging vigilantism and other violence. DeSantis has also taken away the reproductive rights and freedoms of women and girls. Now, the new research highlights the central role that authoritarian ideas, especially misogyny and hostile sexism, play in today's Republican Party and the behavior of its voters. While self-identified Democrats and the public as a whole have increasingly embraced the idea of gender equality as a norm, Republicans have become more regressive and misogynistic, according to a study by the communications and polling firm Perry Undem. Perry Undem's research also shows that hostile sexism and the core belief that women are inferior to men, meaning support for traditional gender roles, is highly correlated with opposing women's reproductive rights and belief that women do not have the intellectual or moral wisdom required to make decisions about their own bodies, i.e., they need to be guided by men, also highly correlated with opposing women's reproductive rights and freedoms. Now, in addition, the Republicans are also much more likely than Democrats to believe that women who choose to have abortions are irresponsible people who do not deserve to have kids, basically, in their mind. Now, Republicans in the study also believe that feminism has done more harm than good for the country when it's the other way around. Feminism has done more good for the country than harm. Now, Perry Undem's report summarizes these findings. Sexist beliefs related to views toward abortion are sexist beliefs related to views toward abortion, and yes, there are very strong correlations between sexist beliefs and views toward abortion. Now, how pervasive are false stereotypes of women who have abortions? Upwards of 60% of the public hold stereotypical views on this. And what variables in our survey best predict wanting abortion legal or illegal? Now, false stereotypes of women and women who have abortions, basically. Now, the group identified as hostile anti-egalitarians, a group that includes almost 50% of Republican men, are most likely to hold such misogynistic views. Now, Perry Undem's report also elaborates on this. Now, with the segment, 18% of all survey respondents is the least progressive on gender and holds the most hostile sexist views. This cohort, almost universally 95% agrees that feminism has done more harm than good when it's done more good than harm. Now, large majorities agree that women are too easily offended, and 80% agree that white men are the most attacked group in the country right now, which exactly the opposite. The three quarters, 75%, say that they're more comfortable with women having traditional roles in society, and only 12% say that a husband should definitely be prosecuted in the case of any marital rape. Now, this group skews white 76%, older 72%, or basically 72% are 45 and older. The men that are 57%, married men 59%, Republicans 58%, and religious people 38% attend the religious services once a week or more. Now, 44% of Republican men are anti-egalitarians. Now, in a previous essay that was written at Salon, Amanda Marcotte explained on her theory here and how hostile sexism and misogyny fit into the Republican Party strategy. Republicans know that there's no substantial voting constituency for their economic policies because their economic policies suck. Now, tapping into this anger over women's economic and social gains allows the party to reach voters who would not be motivated by spending cuts to Social Security or tax cuts for the wealthiest Americans. So while most Americans may reject the misogyny that underpins abortion bans, the anti-choice message is tapping a larger group of voters than the Republicans could otherwise access. If they give up sexism now, they risk losing their core voters without necessarily getting new ones in to replace them. Now, misogyny has been central to the Republican brand for too long, and it turns out for them to risk changing course now. Now, the research tells us that anti-abortion attitudes are about more than babies are when life begins. This is what Teresa Undum, the co-founder of the Perry Undum, had told Salon. Instead, views are about one's fundamental beliefs toward women, and when it comes to Republicans, they hold the most hostile sexist views. In other words, to keep the GOP base motivated to donate, volunteer, and vote in elections, the Republican Party needs to appeal to their sexist attitudes. The most effective way to win over the misogynist voters is to attack reproductive rights, basically. And new research by UC Berkeley political scientist Cecilia Moe complements Perry Undum's findings. In a conversation with Edward Lempinen of the Berkeley News, Cecilia Moe elaborates on what she describes as modern sexism and anxieties related to hierarchy and loss of status. Now, today, in the Republican Party, we're seeing the advancement of women and several minority groups. We're increasingly talking about issues of inequality. But if you're thinking, I'm not on top anymore and I should be on top, then you might start feeling aggrieved by these changes. And also, she goes into other detail about how modern sexism impacts men's voting and other political behavior. Additionally, in the current work she's doing in the U.S., her collaborators and her, they see preliminary evidence that modern sexism and some other dimensions of sexism needs to be a lot more predictive of voting now than what it was in the past. These constituencies seem to be arguing gender discrimination doesn't exist anymore. We need to stop caring about advancing women. Women are getting too much, and men are being left behind, and we don't like government agencies and taxpayer dollars being invested in trying to remedy some form of discrimination that we don't think exists anymore. Now, Donald Trump, Cecilia Moe explains, skillfully uses the white male rage as a tool to radicalize his inbred base into attacking and undermining pluralistic democracy. Now, having the former squatter of the United States champion their cause has emboldened the aggrieved white male. And as their grievances were being amplified, they were made to feel that something could actually be done to address their concerns, and Trump didn't do anything to address their concerns. Now, the mainstream American news media, especially its professional centrists with their both-sidism and horse race coverage obsessions, have consistently failed to properly adapt to the age of Trump, like ascendant neo-fascism and the larger democracy crisis. Now, one of their greatest failures is a near-religious cult-like devotion to a belief in normal politics, where the institutions and democracy are strong because of so-called shared values. Now, the mainstream news media refuses to accept the foundational central role that emotions and identity play into politics. Now, what America's news media and mainstream political class need to understand and accept is that modern conservatism is a type of motivated social cognition where sexism, racism, misogyny, social dominance behavior, authoritarianism, and other factors play a central role in political decision-making, and to deny these facts is to willfully refuse to understand the true nature of America's democracy crisis. Now, once again, if a person tells you who they are, believe them. Being a Republican or conservative today is a statement of one's core identity and personhood, where fascism, authoritarianism, violence, and a need to dominate and control others, deemed as being outside of one's tribe, is central to the group identity and brand. Now, today's Republican fascists have been screaming at the top of their lungs about who they really are, and too many members of America's news media and political class have convinced themselves that they are somehow not serious. That denial will be written in capital letters as the epitaph of America's democracy and civil society. So if you like the video, you can give the video a like and subscribe to my channel, RBW King. You can also hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified when a new video comes out. If you want to support my work even further, you can donate to my Patreon link, which you can find in the About section of YouTube. And for just a little as $3 for the video, your donation can help go a long way, and thanks for listening.